Welcome to the Fighting on Film podcast, the podcast all about classic and obscure war movies, from the Normandy landings to the days of chivalry and swords. If it's been captured on film, we're going to try and cover it. I'm Robbie of RM Military History.
I'm Matthew Moss of Historical Firearms and the Armourer's Bench.
Welcome back everyone to Fighting on Film. Dirty Dozen is behind us now, and we're all Dirty Dozened out, and I hope everyone had a beautiful Christmas, got all the presents they wanted.
What do you mean we're not doing the TV series? You told me this was episode 1 of the TV series.
The Danko's Dozen. Yeah. Gee, no.
No, of course. We're back with a show and tell episode, our occasional series where we discuss films we've watched recently, and then we can sometimes cycle back around and cover them in full-length episodes.
Yes. What have you seen lately?
Recently, I watched a film I never thought I would watch again until we had to cover it for a full episode.
Oh, we both did.
Very kindly invited onto Woody's show on World War II TV to discuss cinema depictions of Pearl Harbor at the beginning of December. And for that, we watched about half a dozen films, didn't we, between us? And we discussed them all. You can find that out on over on Woody's channel, World War II TV.
Yep.
It was a great show. Had a lot of fun chatting about all these different films. And one of them, obviously, that everyone is always interested in when it comes to that topic is 2001's Epic. The Epic. Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
And yeah, Woody had a bit of an epiphany where he liked it more than he thought he would.
Yeah.
Robbie came around a little bit to it, but I still hated it as much as I did it.
Yeah, Matt was the anomaly. See, for me, like, if you've seen the episode, you'll know, but for those that haven't, 8-year-old me adored that movie. I thought it was great. But what I didn't realize is I'd always start after the bar brawl when all the action kicks in, when it actually starts to become a war movie. So for me, that movie kind of worked because it was like Pearl Harbor, then it was the bomb scene, and it was all sort of wrapped up in a nice little bow at the end. But then I had sat down and watched the hour and a half of Love's Triangle before, and you're like, what the?
I believe they technically call that backstory, but I'm not entirely convinced.
Backstories are 3 people you couldn't care less about. Come on,
I know.
You know, there's the plot holes you can fly B-25 through.
Ben Affleck, Kate Beckinsale, and Josh Hartnett. I nearly forgot.
I love how you had to think.
It's Josh Hartnett, because he's the worst thing in this film.
Oh God, sorry, Josh, if you're listening.
Yeah. If you want to come on,
that's
and
him
talk
struck
about
off the guest list.
Go for it, Josh.
God.
But yeah, it's a 3-hour film, and Pearl Harbor doesn't actually begin until about 1 hour 50, 1 hour 30 into the film.
Movie's longer than the actual attack lasted.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just something I can't fathom.
And we came to some good conclusions, I think, on Woody's show. In that
we did.
There are scenes in that film which are excellent, that give real weight to that battle and the tragedy that occurred on so many of those ships.
Yeah.
But I still cannot forgive it for that bloated, unnecessary love triangle. The awful inclusion of the Battle of Britain, which had already ended by the time of the film was set. And then we also get at the end, we get the Doolittle raid tacked on at the end, which itself is unnecessary. It's just, I know why they've done it as a bookend to give it some closure, but I don't know how. I don't understand why it was necessary.
It's
really.
a studio giving too much money to like a director and a producer in Michael Bay and Jerry Bruckheimer, who really shouldn't really be tackling a movie like this. I mean, I can kind of get Bay because he's just done Armageddon and it's the spectacle. I can understand that, but the actual
and the spectacle is what he gets right.
Else, yeah, exactly. It's Bay doing what Bay does best. But obviously, I don't think, and I still don't think he can do a whole movie that hits every beat. So every movie I've ever seen of his has always just been lacking something. 13 Hours, I think, is probably his most competent film, perhaps.
Yeah,
so. Because at least that's a bombastic pro-American, gun battle for an hour and 20, and it's quite well shot and things. But this movie just Pearl Harbor just doesn't carry itself enough to be worthy of
No.
your 3.5 hours.
But as I said, some of those scenes during the battle and afterwards, I mean, if you cut out Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett trying to get to planes, if you cut that bit out, you don't need that bit. That's boring. In fact, the flying scenes of them portraying with different names the two Army aviators that did get airborne in P-40s is quite boring.
It's a bit of a slap in the face to the real heroes.
Exactly. It's a film that has a lot of drawbacks, I think, in the way it is paced, some of the story, and some of the decisions that were made. But I think those scenes that convey the desperateness of the men on the ships are among the best of the Pearl Harbor movies.
Yeah, we touched on that in the live, didn't we?
We did.
Some of those images of hands coming up, men banging on sides of hulls,
men just going about their daily business and being struck by a torpedo or a bomb coming through the deck. There's just some very well shot little sequences, and I think that drags up the average of the film a little bit. But for me, it still fails as a cohesive film.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus now.
And it'll be a fun one when we do get around to it, Rob.
Yeah, we'll hopefully we can get like a naval historian on and they can tell us exactly why it's
ideal,
awful.
wouldn't it? And someone that's an expert in Pearl Harbor, and we can talk about the battle, what it gets right, what it gets wrong.
For 2001, the actual attack sequence where the Zeros are going in and peppering the ships, that still holds up, and that's one thing the movie's got going for it.
A pleasing mix of practical and CGI, isn't it?
Yeah,
stands up better than Midway 2019, for instance.
Oh god, yeah, no, it does. Which is all, yeah, of course. So if you've not seen Pearl Harbor 2001, it's probably not the best introduction to it.
Perhaps not.
But yeah, it's out there. It's out there for you to watch. I think it's on Netflix at the moment.
Yeah, I think it is actually.
I can't remember.
It's on one of the streaming services, of course. It's a Michael Bay movie. It's got name recognition.
Hello, Robbie here. Did you know you can support the podcast on Patreon? Join the supporting cast today and gain access to exclusive perks, such as discount codes, our monthly Patreon film votes, and the chance to get exclusive merchandise before anyone else. Search Fighting on Film on Patreon or find the link on our website. Thank you. Now back to the show.
What about you, Rob?
Fans of the podcast might be aware that Talking Pictures TV, that brilliant UK-based film channel here in the UK, they have started their own streaming service, and it's called Encore, and subscription's free. So I checked it out, and I was trawling through the site, just looking if there was any little gems for the podcast. Interesting enough, Men in War is on there, and we covered that a few months ago. So if you've not listened to that episode and you want to watch Men in War, I'd recommend it because it's on there for free.
I'm hoping they put Theirs Is the Glory up on there.
I'm hoping they do too. That'd be really nice. Upscaled version would be lovely.
Yeah.
But what I found was I came across a 1978 TV series called Spearhead. And imagine something like a more gritty version of Soldier Soldier, shall I say?
Soldier, but good.
Yeah, I'd go for that. So it's about the Wessex Rangers, and they're a fictional unit in this Spearhead regiment. So the premise is that they're the front line wherever they go. They're like the top,
like Pathfinders,
they're like Pathfinders. Yeah, they're top of the top. And it was broadcast, produced by Southern Television, and it was broadcast on ITV in the UK in the 70s. And it had 3 series, and it seems to be a little bit forgotten, but well loved but forgotten. But it's up on Encore to watch for free. So I'm 1.5 series in. The first season sets up the main characters, sets up the COs, the NCOs, the men, and it's the same characters all the way through. But whereas sort of Soldier just concentrates on Robson and Jerome, this show actually concentrates on how it is to be a private under a sergeant, under an RSM, under a CSM. But then it shows how the sergeant feels to be treated. It shows how the CSM's life is. It's a much fairer representation of the army on screen, at least for me, because the original advert that I found said it's not a promotional video. and it's not like a recruitment drive either. So
Right.
it's just trying to show what the writer thinks is a fair portrayal of the army. So the first season is set in Northern Ireland, and there's a lot of morality involved. Should we be heroes? Should we just do our job and go home? A lot of the soldiers hate the fact they get treated the way they do, but then they can understand the way they get treated. So it's very well written, and of its time, is very of its time as well. Some of the language, some of the themes, they wouldn't fly in 2021, but obviously 1978, unfortunately, things like sexism and racism were the norm, so it does pop up. But I think it's actually dealt with quite well. There's some quite interesting discussions that characters have about being a soldier and how they're represented in their communities by being a soldier. Very interesting. And the second season is they go to Germany and they're British Army on the Rhine. So if you're a history fan, it's great because you get to see British Army in kit, and I think it's filmed in Germany in the second season.
Ties in nicely with our episode with Kenton.
Exactly, and there's a fantastic little bit, and if I haven't sold it to you already, if you're a fan of our BAOR episodes, there's a little throwaway line in season 2, and ordinarily I would have thought, oh, that's interesting, but knowing a little bit more, it was really, really interesting to hear it. So the CO in season 2, he's finishing a phone call before a scene starts, and he goes, only 30 swing fire missiles for the whole year. The lads need training on them. What if the Russians turn up? That's not enough missiles. And he puts the phone down. I think it's the RSM who's across the room from him, goes, oh, trouble with the stores, sir. And he goes, well, we haven't got not enough money for ammunition. And when we did our show with Kenton, hearing these shortages that the British Army on the Rhine had,
absolutely, yeah,
it was such a cool little line. I'm like, oh, great, they're addressing it. Whether the public knew or not is another question, but at least in the show, they show the restraints of the army as well. So I'd really recommend it. It's a lot of fun. The episodes are an hour long each. It's a really good mix between serious issues and decent drama, and a little bit of kitchen sink drama at times as well. But I don't think it breaches soldier levels. And check out Encore, because I think it's proving to be quite a hidden gem of a streaming service.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check out Spearhead yet. It sounds really interesting. It's definitely an area of the British Army's history that I'm interested in. Must check that one out.
Really great. So there's 2 more recommendations for you listeners, fair listener. So we hope you really had a good Christmas, and we're looking forward to New Year. Happy New Year to all the FOF fans out there. Thank you for your continued support for another year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening and supporting our recent December charity fundraising raffle that we did. The response to that was phenomenal. Thank you all so much. And we've got much more coming in the new year. So I'm excited to crack on come January. And thank you everyone for listening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Check us out all the regular places, and we'll catch you again in the next one.
Bye guys.
Bye-bye.